The film begins in a city in Spain, where a man named Manel and his wife Julia are visiting Manel's sister, Belen, for a New Year's celebration. During their visit, Manel enjoys playing with his niece and watching his cat, Luculo. After his niece falls asleep, Manel says goodbye to Belen, mentioning that he needs to leave before morning. He also sends regards to his brother-in-law, who is currently working out of town. During the drive home, Manel and Julia get into an argument. Distracted by the fight, Julia, who is driving, loses focus and they end up in a minor accident. Tragically, Julia dies in the incident. A year later, Manel wakes up to news reports about a government-imposed quarantine in several areas after the discovery of a new virus, called the TSJ virus, a mutation of rabies. The news anchor reports that this TSJ virus is far more dangerous than COVID-19, as those infected become extremely aggressive and attempt to attack others. However, Manel seems unconcerned, absorbed in reading a letter instead. As he prepares to leave, Manel hears more about the virus outbreak on the radio. He also notices several ambulances rushing down the streets, sparking his curiosity about what might be happening in his city. Upon arriving at the docks, Manel encounters two women who are looking to buy a boat. As he checks the condition of his own boat, which has been in use for a year, memories of Julia resurface. Ultimately, Manel decides not to sell the boat. On his way home, Manel stops by a convenience store to pick up some instant noodles. At that moment, he is startled to see someone who looks remarkably like Julia, which leaves him shaken and unable to go through with his shopping. Back at home, Manel tries to lift his spirits by playing with Luculo. He also has a video call with Belen, who asks if he has sold the boat yet. Belen then shares some significant news. Her husband's company has suddenly instructed them to move to the Canary Islands. Since the Canary Islands are quite far, Belen suggests that Manel come along, believing the location might be safer, especially with news of the virus spreading to more cities. The next day, Manel decides to join Belen, hoping to leave behind memories of Julia and start anew. However, when Manel arrives at the airport, all flights are unexpectedly canceled, sparking unrest among the passengers. Soon after, chaos escalates as an emergency alert suddenly appears on everyone's phones. In a tense moment at the airport, an enraged passenger manages to seize a security officer's gun, waving it wildly and causing mass panic as people flee from the building. When Manel tries to drive home, he gets stuck in a massive traffic jam as the city's residents pour out after the emergency alert. Listening to the radio, Manel hears that the government has begun locking down the city, heightening his worry. Fearing that the situation could worsen, much like the chaos he saw at the airport, Manel decides to abandon his car and make his way home on foot. After nearly 5 hours of walking, Manel finally arrives at his neighborhood, where he notices officers struggling to restrain a resident infected with the TSJ virus. The next morning, Manel is awakened by a call from his sister, Belen, who has safely arrived in the Canary Islands. Their flight was unaffected by the emergency alert, as they departed just in time. Upon learning the city is now under lockdown, Belen urges Manel to stay indoors, explaining that even Munich, one of Europe's largest cities, has been quarantined, with strict no entry and no exit measures in place. It's clear that the TSJ outbreak is no ordinary situation. When Manel opens his social media app, he sees videos showing infected individuals exhibiting terrifying behavior, almost zombie-like, attacking others violently. Shortly afterward, another emergency alert blares across the city, but this time it's a city-wide quarantine order, signaling that the infection rate has reached critical levels. Realizing the lockdown will soon be in full effect, Manel heads to a convenience store to stock up on food. Unfortunately, he's too late. Nearly everything is sold out, including instant noodles, so he's forced to take whatever remains. Later, Manel tries gathering supplies at a gas station convenience store. As he prepares to leave, he witnesses a horrifying sight, a citizen infected with a virus attacking a police officer. When Manel attempts to intervene, the infected person that acting like a zombie now turns toward him. Fortunately, the injured officer manages to stop the infected attacker just in time, urging Manel to leave quickly before more of the infected arrive. Back at home, Manel wastes no time searching the internet for survival tips on how to withstand a zombie virus outbreak. He secures his home using various tools, including iron fencing and permanent locks, to ensure no infected individuals can enter. A few days later, government officials announced to the neighborhood that everyone will be evacuated to the nearest quarantine center by bus. Anyone refusing evacuation will be considered in violation of national security laws and face severe penalties. Yet, despite the warnings, Manel remains adamant about not leaving his home. 2 weeks later, nearly everyone in Manel's neighborhood has been evacuated, leaving him as the only remaining resident. Running low on food, Manel decides to explore the empty homes nearby in search of supplies. One by one, he breaks into houses but finds little. While entering one home, Manel is shocked to find an elderly woman named Gabriella still alive. Like him, Gabriella had stayed behind and wasn't evacuated. As they chat, Manel shares his struggle to find food, as nearly every house he searched was empty of supplies. Gabriella, however, seems unfazed by this problem. She knows the neighborhood well, and, with her help, Manel discovers a home stocked with food. To his delight, Manel also finds a dirt bike, which will make it easier to explore other houses in the area. To celebrate, Manel and Gabriella enjoy a meal together, sharing stories of their families. At that moment, Manel talks about how he misses his wife, who passed away a year ago in an accident. That night, Manel returns home to feed his cat, Luculo. While tuning his radio, he accidentally picks up a transmission from someone saying they have a boat and are heading to the Canary Islands. The next morning, Manel plans to invite Gabriella to join him, not wanting to leave her behind alone. But when he arrives at her house, he's devastated to find that Gabriella has passed away. As he leaves her home, Manel is suddenly attacked by an infected woman, now a zombie. During this time, Manel struggles to fend her off, but ultimately manages to shoot her with a spearfishing gun. Though Manel didn't know the woman, the act of killing someone, even an infected person, leaves him feeling troubled and anxious, worried that he may have committed a sin. Determined to escape, Manel sets off for the docks on the dirt bike he found, bringing Luculo along in hopes of finding a boat to reach the Canary Islands. Upon reaching the quarantine center at the city's edge, he finds it completely deserted, despite it being the designated gathering point. With the main road blocked by iron gates, Manel takes an alternate route through a forest. But to his horror, the forest is teeming with hundreds of zombies chasing after him. As he reaches the refugee camp, the number of zombies only grows, a grim sign that everyone there has also turned. Along the way, Manel crashes his bike after hitting a pile of dead zombies. When he tries to restart it, the bike won't run, forcing him to flee on foot with zombies close behind. Finally arriving at the docks, Manel manages to lock the entry gate, holding the zombies at bay. However, he faces a new problem. All the boats, including his own, have vanished. Surveying the area, Manel spots a boat not far from the dock and swims toward it. But when he climbs aboard, he's horrified to discover a zombie baby inside. Quickly, Manel finds a small, functional boat nearby and sets off, heading to the coordinates he heard on the radio, hoping the boat is still there. With no other options left, he clings to the hope that this vessel will be his chance at survival. After a long journey, Manel finally encounters a group of armed men who escort him to a much larger ship. However, it quickly becomes clear that this isn't the ship Manel heard about on the radio. The captain and crew seem to be from a foreign country, as they don't speak any Spanish. Fortunately, there's a man named Victor who speaks Spanish and acts as a translator. Manel then explains that he wants to go to the Canary Islands. As his sister told him, it's one of the safest places, filled with soldiers and medical staff who have established a secure refuge from the zombie virus outbreak. However, Victor informs him that the ship is currently undergoing repairs and can't set sail until it's fixed. That night, as Manel prepares to sleep in a cabin, he notices a group of survivors boarding the ship. However, the next morning, when Manel goes to get food, he can't find any of the survivors. He also notices a fresh bruise near Victor's eye. Curious, Manel asks Victor about the survivors from the previous night, but Victor claims he didn't see anyone arrive, deepening Manel's suspicions. Later, the captain questions Manel about key locations around the dock. Manel mentions some important places, but the captain shows interest only in hardware stores for parts to fix the ship. Eventually, they decide to head to a power station near the docks. While the captain and some crew members leave, Manel, driven by curiosity, sneaks deeper into the ship to learn more about where he is. Unexpectedly, he finds two survivors tied up. Manel manages to free one of them, but suddenly, a crew member catches them and shoots Manel. Just as the crew member is about to attack, Victor arrives and stops him, ultimately killing the attacker. Victor then reveals the unsettling truth. This isn't an ordinary ship. It belongs to a Taliban group from Afghanistan, and they're not here to help people escape the zombie virus but for another purpose. Victor himself dislikes being there. Recalling that Manel had mentioned a helicopter at a hospital, Victor and the remaining survivor decide to escape on the small boat that Manel arrived with. Unfortunately, the other crew members spot their escape and open fire, killing the other survivor and wounding Victor severely in the shoulder. When they finally reach the shore, Manel immediately searches for a vehicle to get Victor to a hospital. After finding a car, Manel heads to the hospital, taking his cat, Luculo, along with them. Just as they arrive at the hospital, a zombie suddenly leaps onto their car, causing Manel to momentarily lose control. Thankfully, he manages to regain balance and fend off the approaching zombies. With the immediate danger cleared, Manel hurries Victor inside the hospital. There, Victor urges Manel to remove the bullet lodged in his shoulder. But Manel, inexperienced in medical procedures, struggles to figure out how to extract a bullet safely. As Manel searches for anesthesia, he overhears voices from the floor above. Hoping to find someone who can help treat Victor, Manel carefully heads up, mindful of the zombies still roaming the hospital. Unfortunately, a zombie spots him, attracting more to his location as they begin chasing him. Shortly after, Manel finds himself trapped in a room, but suddenly, a woman appears and urges him to follow her. After escaping the zombies, Manel asks the woman to help save Victor. She then leads Manel and Victor to her hiding place. There, Manel meets Lucia, who isn't alone. She is with another doctor named Iria and 3 children. While the doctors work on Victor, Manel lets the curious kids pet Luculo, his cat, as they're fascinated by his constant companion. Soon, Lucia informs Manel that they successfully removed the bullet from Victor's shoulder. Since Victor needs time to recover, Lucia invites Manel to stay with him until he's fully healed. During this time, Manel asks if Lucia knows the whereabouts of the hospital's helicopter, explaining that he's searched but couldn't find it. Lucia reveals that the helicopter is located in the quarantine area, now swarming with zombies. Originally, the helicopter was used to deliver medical supplies, but the quarantine center collapsed within half a day as the zombie virus spread rapidly, infecting everyone, including patients, doctors, and soldiers. Reaching the helicopter won't be easy, as it's in a different building section. Not only that, without sufficient weapons, passing through hundreds, if not thousands, of zombies in that area would be impossible. While waiting for Victor to recover, Manel reflects on memories from the past. After their car accident, Julia was treated in one of the hospital rooms before passing away. In the present, when Manel heads to the rooftop, he unexpectedly receives a signal and views several video messages from his sister, Belen, who has been anxiously trying to contact him since the military evacuation began. Manel feels deeply grateful for his safety amidst the chaos brought on by the zombie outbreak. As Manel tries to contact Belen, he suddenly hears gunshots coming from the Taliban group exploring the area. In a panic, Manel urges Lucia and Iria to get ready to head for the helicopter before the Taliban find it first. If the Taliban reach it, they'll lose their only chance to escape to safety away from the zombie virus outbreak. On their way through the corridor connecting the buildings, they find it engulfed in flames, making it difficult to pass. As they open the door at the end of the hall, a zombie suddenly appears and attacks Iria. Manel tries to save her, but it's too late. She's been bitten. With no other option, Iria urges them all to leave before she turns into a zombie herself and becomes a danger to them. When they finally near the helicopter's location, they realize the area is already swarming with zombies. The group try to move slowly, but the zombies detect them, causing Manel and one of the children to be separated from the others. Soon after, They hear gunfire from the Taliban, who are clearing out zombies nearby. Once it's safe, Manel quickly reunites with Lucia and the group. As they reach the helicopter, they see a horde of zombies blocking their way. With no weapons to fight them off, they use an iron fence to create a circular barrier around themselves, hoping to move unnoticed through the crowd. At first, it works, but they accidentally make a sound, alerting the zombies who swarm toward them. Manel and the others fend off the zombies, preventing them from scaling the fence. When they reach the gate, Lucia hurries to open it, directing everyone into the helicopter, while Manel locks the gate behind them. He fights off the zombies that manage to climb over the fence. Moments later, just as Victor starts the helicopter, the Taliban arrive, shooting at the surrounding zombies. The Taliban captain then demands that Victor exit the helicopter, threatening to shoot them all. With no other option, Manel unlocks the second gate, allowing the zombies to flood in and attack the Taliban. Taking cover behind the fence, Manel watches as the helicopter lifts off, then fights his way through the remaining zombies to catch up. With Lucia's help, he finally climbs aboard safely. Once in the air, Manel reaches Belen and tells her they've secured a helicopter and are on their route to the Canary Islands. However, Belen urgently warns him not to come as the zombie virus has already spread there. The Canary Islands are now a zombie island. Stunned by the news, they realize they have nowhere to go, as it seems the virus has overtaken all of Europe. Their only chance for survival is to find an uninhabited island untouched by the virus. Moral lesson from the story: when zombies are taking over, maybe it's time to put that boat-buying dream on hold. And remember, arguing in the car might not just ruin your night, but also your survival chances.